Fellas, how's it going? I play a lot of chess. However, today is the first day I have ever played against a rated player, a candidate master. I don't think I've played against any officially rated player, like a grandmaster, a national master, international master, candidate master. So this is very special to me because boom, right beside his name, you'll see his little red CM. Oh, this is so great. And the best part about this is I actually perform really well. I'm rated about 1300. The best part about this game is I don't get one, I get two brilliant moves in this game. So I've been playing as white, just the Roy Lopez, or in this case, kind of the Italian game where I bring out my king's knight and bishop first and castle early. Because black played c5, this is technically the Sicilian. He brings out his knight, I bring out my other knight, he moves his pawn, boom, and then I castle. So already, game's looking pretty even Steven. No one's made any real mistakes quite yet. I'm not trying to be too fancy here. I'm just following basic chess principles, developing my minor pieces and castling early. He goes bishop g7. I push d3. Computer says I should have went d4 there, but I don't. He castles, and I bring my bishop out. My bishop was the last piece I had to figure out where I wanted it to go. All I need to do left is move my queen out of the way somewhere, and then my rooks will be in full power. Now he pushes his h6 pawn. He's going to kick my bishop out of the way. I decide to retreat it. Our candidate master makes his first obvious mistake with bringing the knight out to d5, but don't worry, I also make an inaccuracy, taking back with the bishop when I should have taken back with the pawn. I take back with the bishop, he then gets to take my pawn, I have to protect my rook, so I bring it over to b1. This is where the game gets really interesting. He goes bishop c3, he's obviously attacking my rook, however, I go ahead and take his knight. But instead of taking my rook, he does a slight inaccuracy and threatens my bishop. I need to save both my rook and my bishop. He's going to take one of these pieces. But as I was considering it, I was like, wait a second. What if I just take the pawn and let him take my rook? So I actually go for this. I go bishop takes g5. And that is a brilliant move. Not too bad for playing a candidate master, and I'm just a 1200, 1300 rated fella. And then he takes back, and then once again, I'm stuck with the same problem. My knight is hanging. So do I save it, or do I go for this idea of sacking my rook by taking his pawn and then bringing my queen up in for an attack? Well, I go ahead, and I decide to play a bit more aggressive. I go ahead, and I take his pawn, giving him my rook. And for whatever reason, our friend here, he doesn't take my rook. He just pushes f6, and the computer actually says that this is the best move. If you take the rook with the bishop, it's actually mate in 8. The question is, would I have discovered the mate in 8? What would that look like? What would this mate in 8 look like? Checkmate with the knight moving from g5 to f3. Look at that symmetry. The bishop blocks all this. Queen blocks all those. The knight blocks this key square. This pawn blocks that square. And my king is blocking these two. What on earth? So, needless to say, I would not have discovered that during the game. But can we take a moment to appreciate my very first game against a candidate master? I got not one, but two brilliant moves, and white is favored by 3.5 points. Fellas. Good feelings gone because I instantly blunder the game with queen h5. Not gonna lie, at this point, I actually still feel like I was doing pretty well. He takes my knight. I put him in check with my bishop. And then he finds the only great move, pushing his pawn to e6. At this point, I'm looking. I don't really have any good threats. I can't take this pawn because his queen's defending it. So the only real thing I see here is bringing my queen here to threaten him. Unfortunately, he has his dark squared bishop, so he's easily able to defend this. So that's what we do. I bring my queen over, put him in check, and he retreats his bishop, which is the best move. Now we have a series of best moves from both sides. I am slightly worse at -3. I'm able to catch some ground by taking his pawn. He was +2 in material. Now he's only +1. And after take takes, he's only up a single pawn, which I feel a little bit better about. He uses his rook to defend the check. The only idea I really have is I need to develop my rooks, right? My rooks are doing nothing. Yeah, my B rook is controlling a half-open B file, but I need more attacking pieces on his king. The only thing I can have right now is bring my rook up and over in some shape or form. And so that was the idea I go for. It's a good move, but that's all I really have at the moment. He decides to double up his queen and rook, attacking my f-pawn, but also offering a trade of queens. I'm down material. I'm down one pawn. Also, I'm playing against a candidate master, so it's not in my best interest to trade. However, there's nothing else I can do. I need to defend this pawn. He has 2 attackers on this pawn, and I only have 1 defender. So if I can't find a way to defend this pawn and save my queen, then the best thing I have for myself is to take the exchange of queens. Get the ladies off the board, and hopefully I'm able to hold this position. It's going to be tough, though, because as you can see, we both have 2 rooks, but he's up a bishop. Fortunately, I've gotten a little compensation by taking his h and f pawns, but that might not be enough. And against a candidate master, probably won't be. I push my pawn. He moves his bishop to threaten my rook. I have to defend that, but I also need to defend this pawn because now he doesn't only have 1 attacker. Once I move my rook somewhere, he's going to have 2 attackers. So that's why I do rook e2. I have 2 defenders with my rook and my king, while he has 2 attackers, and so we should be sitting pretty solid there. He brings over his 3rd and final piece, so now he has 3 attackers on my f-pawn, and I have to defend by bringing a 3rd defender. This is a very tricky position for me. I am certainly lost, so my game plan now has shifted from slightly dominating early with those 2 brilliant moves to now surviving and seeing if I can hold out a draw. If I can find a way to lock up the position somehow, saving as many pawns as I can, it's not in my interest to be trading any of these pawns, but I need to find a way, once he starts pushing these pawns, am I able to move my pawns in a way where he won't be able to just trade and then gobble with his rooks and stuff. He pushes his pawn, I move my king up, he pushes another pawn, I push my pawn, and then play continues until finally, this seems kind of like a significant move. I don't want to take here, because if I do, then he just gets a pass pawn. Even if he doesn't just pass, he could simply capture, and now he definitely has a pass pawn, because my pawn in the c file is not going to be able to reach over and stop his pawn on the a file. So pushing my pawn forward to a4 seemed like the best, because now these aren't going anywhere, and I still have a pawn on c that can actually reach his b pawn. However, it kind of delays the inevitable. So I'm not taking the trade or letting him take right now. I'm just going to try and buy myself some time, and hopefully I can lock up the position with the rest of my pawns. Unfortunately, not only does he have 4 pawns on the queen side, he also has this very useful dark squared bishop. He brings his king in, getting his king a bit more active. I push my pawn, which I instantly regret because there's not much I can do. And then, yeah, king h2 is the best move, but then he can trade off all these rooks and then have a king pawn endgame up a bishop. So this is going to be really tricky. He takes, I have to take. He takes again, I have to take again because he put me in check. And then the game kind of divulges and there is no hope. The only idea I could possibly have is my only pass pawn. However, his dark squared bishop, all he needs to do is just sack it eventually. But play looks like this. I'm trying to threaten the bishop. He walks it back. And you can already see the idea. I'm never going to be able to promote this pawn because once this king gets involved in the game somehow, maybe this way, push the pawn, take, he's just going to sack his bishop for my pawn. Try my best to hold on. I don't see any way to really lock up the position. If I had one more pawn here, that'd be a different story. I would just push, lock it up over here, and then his dark squared bishop would never really be able to do anything. If I could walk my king back to defend the base of the theoretical pawn structure, his king's never going to be able to gobble that. We would have a Zugzwang position where I might have to step away and he gets to gobble it and start eating because his dark squared bishop is attacking these dark squares. I would want to go back and forth in some way, right? However, I'm not going to be able to. Every time I make a move, I have to go here and I won't be defending my pawn. His dark squared bishop is doing a great job from stopping my king, being able to just do a back and forth and holding a draw. Plus, we don't even have the pawn here for this theoretical position anyway, so it's not looking really good for us. He moves back. I move up. He brings his king more into the game. I keep doing nothing moves, making, going back and forth. He just gets to push his pawn. I have to take because what else can I do? I can't push. If I push, he gets to decide which one he wants, and it's the mate in 6. So I have to take. I do. He takes. And now look at this, guys. I can't get over here to protect my pawn because look at his king. It's blocking all these squares, but more importantly, this dark squared bishop is blocking this square. So the only move I have in this position is king e1. I'm not just going to sack my pawn because it's mate in 7. I mean, I'm completely lost anyways, but I'm trying the best I can to hold on. Move my king. But after a few moves, look at that. There's nothing I can do. He doesn't take the pawn yet. He definitely could have. I push, but to no avail. He gets to swoop his bishop over, and I don't get to stop it in any way. His pawn is 1 square away from promoting. I go ahead and do the only move I really can. He takes, I take, and then bam. He promotes to a queen, and then obviously for a candidate master, and for a lot of you 1200s like me, this is a textbook win. And that's a checkmate. Fellas, regardless of losing, I'm just super proud of myself because not only did we find 2 brilliant moves in this game, look at what the chess engine suggested that we were playing at. Our opponent was rated about 21 or 2200, and he stayed true to that with the chess engine. The chess engine suggests that black was playing at a 2200 rated level, but me as a humble little 1200, apparently I was playing at a 2150 level. The only bad part about that is, unfortunately, my opponent was playing 50 points stronger than I was. So, just like the Pittsburgh Steelers in the playoffs, we were fighting for a win, but then we got the loss. Am I right, fellas? Come on. Yeah? Let me end this video by inviting you guys to join me on stream. If you want to hang out with me in person and get a game in online, I'd love to have you, and maybe we'll make it a video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Your move, fellas.